Hello, welcome to From Caracas. Today we'll be talking to Elvia Tinedo, who is an activist of the political lesbianism, and also she was the first to direct an office of sexual diversity in one of the states in the capital district here in Venezuela. Today we'll be talking to her about political lesbianism and other issues concerning the sexo-diverse community here in Venezuela. Welcome, Elvia. Bienvenida.
Gracias.
How did political lesbianism appear and how it also came to Venezuela, how it develops?
Political lesbianism and rights in Venezuela, as well as other social movements, have flourished here. This has to do with the arrival of the Bolivarian Revolution to the country, not since 1999, but since the second decade of the 21st century, and the last years of Hugo Chavez in the power, where there's a lot more flourishing of a lot more social movements. In Venezuela rises political lesbianism and the idea within the feminist movement. The feminist movement in Venezuela has many parts, but it has its splendor precisely through the revolutionary state. And precisely, the rise or visibilization of this movement of political lesbianism in Venezuela happens with the birth of a great political figure of Latin America, there is Marielle Franco in Brazil. Following the emergence of Marielle Franco, an Afro-descendant woman who comes from the favela of one of the more lower classes in Brazil, and emerges as an openly lesbian woman, that was the point that put up before and after of the flourishing of the political lesbianism, not only here in Venezuela, but in the rest of Latin America.
What do we understand by political lesbianism?
There is a false theory, and even disseminated in the digital and main media, that lesbianism only goes through a matter of sexual orientation. Women were previously accused of lesbianism when they did not want to fulfill the role that the society imposed on them. When we talk about the selfless woman, mother, who takes for children, the housewife, no, the lesbian woman, the word lesbian, is not even invented by the woman itself. It's invented by those institutions and men who saw a woman as someone who did not follow the patterns established by the society and was accused of being a lesbian to stigmatize them, to accuse them of something that they were doing bad. You're doing something wrong because you're not fulfilling your role of the society imposed by the patriarchy. Thus arises the word lesbian, and lesbianism then arises in the socialists of the second wave in the United States of America, of a group of women who were not represented by the demands of feminism of that time. And then they simply they create a new group that is called, or was called in that moment, radical lesbianism in the United States, and hence lesbianism is created there. Obviously, they're not the same current postures because everything has evolved. But political lesbianism rises from there. They took the premise that the personal is political and that feminists fight for the liberation of women. But lesbianism is actually much more flaunted than that. It fights against the heteropatriarchy and the patriarchy, seen both as a political system.
We live in a very patriarchal and very important. Men are leading all time, and they are saying we must go this way. And if a woman raises up, then something is wrong with her. Then which is the difference between feminism and political lesbianism, and how do you conceive yourself?
In reality, Political lesbianism is also known as feminist lesbianism or lesbofeminism. We differentiate ourselves, but there's no such abysmal difference. But there is in the sense of how many authors of political lesbianism who say that lesbianism is the highest level of expression of feminism. That is the highest level of certainty. Let's look at some examples. The capitalism is the highest level that capitalism have is imperialism. The socialism, the highest level is communism. Feminism, and its higher level is lesbianism. Why? Because, for example, here in Venezuela, we can really call ourselves, from the point of view of left feminist movement, totally revolutionary. Because they're in certain position, for example, in Mexico and in other countries as well, but especially in Europe, that it is believed that to be a political lesbian, you must be a lesbian bisexual orientation, and it's not like that here in Venezuela. In Venezuela, it's totally different. In Venezuela, lesbian woman, bisexual woman who declare herself non-binary or queer can be a part of the lesbianism and political lesbianism and takes the flag of political lesbianism, as they are aware of the importance of fighting in a strategic place as it is the mind to fight for the heteropatriarchy. The empowerment of women through the struggle with heteropatriarchy is, to say it, the spearhead or the pinnacle of the historical goal of political lesbianism. And here in Venezuela, we do not confine ourselves to sexual orientation only. There is a Venezuelan organization that is called Lesbian Rebellion, when there are not only lesbian orientations, there are even heterosexuals, bisexual women, that they have said, wait, I understand what is political lesbianism, because first, beyond being a movement, we are also a training school here in Venezuela. Since the emergence of Mariel Franco in Brazil, we have been doing a series of forum activities within the communities, especially to report what is political lesbianism and what does we encourage.
I ask you now, because it comes to my mind, does it have anything to do, political lesbianism, with woman empowerment?
Of course. Beyond the same struggle of feminism, because empowerment is already self-conscious, to be aware that you are a human being with decision, the vanguard within the fight for legal abortion in Latin America is carried out mostly by political lesbians. Because one of the political premises that is a vital space, that you own your body, that you own your decisions. There cannot be no institutions or political currents that can decide for you and can decide over your body.
Isn't it that women in general are not supposed to be defending themselves and their sovereignty over their bodies?
It should be a concern of all women. However, it is lesbianism within the mainstream feminist that has kept the fight, the constant fight, and that has faced the religion to simply make it look that is something that has to come, that has to happen. I'd like to make an example to explain something, because let's play the actors of political lesbianism. As we are a training school, we also nourish ourselves on many authors. I would like to talk about Ludovico Silva. In his social constructs that is called Logical Game, he refers to the fact that there are plans within the existence of humanity. There is a spiritual plane, and there's another material plane. The material plane is when the production of relationship are given. where it is allowed to maintain the system economically speaking. And it is the spiritual plane where women and men are conditioned to work in a certain way, and in that way to maintain the privilege of the upper class and the system as it is set. Now, we, from political living, focus on the spiritual. In the spiritual plane, we work because we know and feel that it is, that the greatest struggle beyond the economic plane is the psychological plane.
Before you were talking about the case of Miriel Franco, a case that was the flag, raised the flag of the fight for recognizing sexual diversity in all its sense and to make a social space to understand it better. Why also it became a figure of how far are willing to go the people who does not accept this, this sexual diversity, this kind of fight?
Something very curious happens here. Political lesbian, or actually no political parties, there is always a lesbian. But that for you to say I'm a lesbian openly, that puts you in a political position without even wanting to. What happened with Mariel Franco? That she began with a political position from the neighborhoods, from the favelas, to do political base work. One day, a person, a political person, someone who knows a career, and she emerges in the country as a political figure. But not only a lesbian political figure, but she declared a lesbian, but she also was a political figure of the more marginalized classes, those excluded, the African descendants. She says, I'm a lesbian, I am a black woman, I am a favela child. When she represents and say that I represent the black lesbian and favela woman, that was simply the moment that we say, you can't do it. In Venezuela, there are many lesbian women within the all political spheres.
For example?
I'm going to say a phrase of the Juan Gabriel, which is a singer. What is inside? You don't ask. It is not my authority to say who is a lesbian. We know each other in the community, and the community knows them, and they know that they are from our community. But we cannot say that she's a lesbian because she has not come out saying that she plays lesbian to any media. She says only that to closer and to our community. But they are there, and it is a sight of them all. When we see Mariel Franco, we say this is the time. And when the same heteropatriarchal thinking disappears, and power groups within Brazil physically disappear her, she doesn't die. It happens as it happened with Chavez. The idea remains, and the idea becomes a flag struggle. And that is really what represents the struggle of the political lesbianism before and after. Lesbian, for example, in my case, we assume that the political is personal. As we as well assume that we are political people who raise a flag struggle according to the empowerment of women. Being heterosexual, lesbian, being peasant, being from any strata that she is. We make it clear that not only we are not really a minority. The minority is actually the heterosexual European white men. Because here in Venezuela, for example, they cannot speak of minority because we are not even statistically quantified. In 2011, the National Statistic Institute conducted a study in the population census that resulted in an amount or a specific data that helped us to understand also the reality that in Venezuela, for the 2011, existed more than 6,000 families that were lesbo homoparental. And it turns out that we in Venezuela today is one of the flawed struggles as well. We do not also have a statistic that tells us how many people of diversity, of the sexual diversity is here in Venezuela. Of course, we know how many are we, but the state haven't supported us in the sense of quantifying us with the corresponding institutions. However, we are fairly representative a crowd because we are everywhere in all strata. I am an audiovisual producer within the media and the public media that we continue to say and we continue to follow the editorial line of the Bolivarian Revolution. There are many people who live their life in sexual diversity.
It's been 20 years since the Bolivarian Revolution has been in power. How has that sexual diverse community worked to represent themselves, to make conscience at all levels of the Venezuelan society, to understand, to fight those cases of people who don't understand, to face also the patriarchal thinking that goes above almost everything in Venezuela, in Latin America, especially in Latin America and the Caribbean?
Here in Venezuela, we, at this time, there are many spaces already conquered, and there are many spaces still to conquer. Within the spaces already conquered, for example, there is the Assembly, that is elaborating a new constitution. And within the premise of that new constitution that is being built, there are many tables of work in which the sexual diversity is exposing all of its demands. And they're not any demand, but they are part of the evolution of the same humanity. For example, we are asking for the recognition of the families osmolefoparental, that the concept is amplified in Venezuela because there not only exists only one type of nuclear family, there are other types of family. Also to be recognized, there are lesbian mothers. Maternity in sexual lesbianism is very high. You only for being a lesbian, you are not refusing to be a mother. And also we ask for the respect, for example, of the right of more women to their reproductive health, to decide on their body. Those are some of the spaces that we haven't been able to deny, but throughout the revolutionary process. And this doesn't count only the official within the state, but also he needs to be, or she needs to be in the social movements in that person that is one of the counters. That is the point of autonomous and participatory democracy. And there are also another types of programs. And this has always existed in Venezuela. It's not illegal. This is not a crime. It's not a crime being gay, bisexual, or lesbian. It has never been a crime. In prior governments before the Bolivarian Revolution, there was a law called Bones and Thugs that it did repress the sexual diversity. At the moment, we are practically advancing, and we do it in the measure in which ourselves mark the rhythm. Here in the Capital District, under the management of Erika Faria, exists. It was created.
We must explain who Erika Faria is here in the Capital District in Caracas, in Venezuela, so our audience can understand better.
Erika Farias is a militant of the Francisco de Miranda Front, and also she is part of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, which is also known as PCUV, created by Commander Chavez. Erika Farias she's currently the government of the Bolivarian municipality of Elvia Tinedo, what is now the Capital District of Caracas. And since she came to the mayor's office in Caracas last year, she created an office called the Bureau of Sexual Diversity in Caracas. And in this office is actually conducting studies that are super important to us. To know how many are we? How many are we part of the Capital District? And that is a petition that was made for the social movement of the sexual diversity, and in specific the political lesbianism. Also, within that office, there are quite interesting things happening. For example, thanks to that office, some committees have been created, Committee of the Sexual Diversity in Caracas. Those committees seek people part of the sexual diversity community within the municipalities that one another, otherwise they are excluded because they are not in a family nuclear. For example, senior citizens who are part of the community, who didn't have children, live alone, and are within the system of social benefits. The Committee of Sexual Diversity go look for the case and count how many do we need, how many are they, and they include it in the social system of benefit. Whether or not they're part of the family nucleus, they are also counted and they're also included. That is one of the functions of that office created by Erika Farias. Also, within the City Hall, there is a social security where if I'm a part of that institution and I have a couple, that person can also be part of the social security that covers me. You don't need to be married to that person because there is no legal equal marriage. However, even though they are not married, there's not a marriage or a document that tells us that we are legal partners. Really, the mayor's office has made significant progress under the direction of Erika Farias to simply straighten those spaces conquered by the sexual diverse community and conquered by the political lesbianism in the El Libertador municipality in Caracas. That same experience in the Office of Sexual Diversity in Caracas is also spreading nationwide. Already exists in the Zulia, exists in Aragua, and little by little, as far as we ourselves go, we mark the pace because the difficult complex of this is the conceptual struggle is to reach the community that has already been embroidered historically by the Christianity and by Catholicism, and to arrive to say not only Christianity and Catholicism exist, there are other things in life that are different, and thoughts are very different. And you have a way of seeing the world that has been presented to you through religion, but this is the reality. We go little by little as far as possible, not only has achieved bisexual diversity, but also the political lesbianism that although we are not many, we are simply the ones who are making significant foundations within the sexual diversity and within the feminist movement itself.
So with that said, I want to thank you for being with us here in From Caracas. We've been talking today to Elvia Tinedo, and we've been talking with her about political lesbianism, how it has developed in Latin America, and the figures that have been the flag of and the example of how they can work, and we all can work together to make a world that understands better what sexual diversity is, and to help and make conscience on all of us. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being with us.